Autism Fitness founder Eric Chessen leading the movement for movement. That's important, but not as important right now as our guest in our pro interview series, Coach Eoin Murphy. How are you, sir?
I'm very good. Thank you very much, Eric Chessen of
Am,
Autism Fitness fame.
am I getting the pronunciation of your name better now? Am I closer?
Yeah. As most non-Irish people go pretty good. Yeah, I never hope that people get it initially. So, yeah, you're flying.
I was practicing a little bit. So your I don't want to call it the journey. What was your introduction into the world of fitness? Was this something that you grew up around, or were you a really active kid and really active teenager, or was it something that you found later on in teen and adulthood?
No, it was early doors. In terms of my upbringing, sport mad family. So we did everything from athletics to rugby to GA, hurling and football, and to karate to swimming. So there would have been little bits and pieces of circuit training or physical stuff or maybe punishment if we had lost a match and it was burpees and press ups. But
Right.
from an early age, I had, for whatever reasons, been quite conscious of my own body image and self esteem when it related to what I saw back in the mirror. And that led me to muscle and fitness magazines
Hmm.
and Arnold Schwarzenegger, to all the probably very unuseful things for a 12 or 13-year olds to try and find in order to develop themselves physically and aesthetically, because it wasn't like I was trying to throw the shot put further or
Right.
give someone a kick in the head better, even though in karate it was non-contact, but sure, look, it was more for the aesthetics.
Non-contact.
And unfortunately, like, and I took up boxing later in life, and you'd think a black belt in karate would have been helpful. Not so much, really. Not used to taking a belt at all. So I really got into the health and fitness from I would always have said not a great place, almost a place of I didn't like how I looked and I wanted to look better rather than I liked how I looked and I wanted to even look even better. But it's how I got there, and I found that others gravitated towards me a bit more because when we started in the weight room, and I went to a private school in Cork in Southern Ireland called Presentation Brothers College, who is our massive rugby school, and they had a gym that was actually better than the gym I went to in college a few years later. So you can imagine it was a rocking gym. It's even better now. And we started weight training around 15 as part of the rugby program. And I had
Wow.
been doing bits and pieces at home out my shed. And my father built a bench. I bought a few weights every chance I got with a bit of money. And I was just that bit further than the rest of them. And they would ask me questions, and I was able to show off, I suppose. And as any young 15-year-old would like, I enjoyed that. So
Hmm.
it just led me down the path of, it was something I was known for in the school. And then I decided to go into that in college to actually study it. Again, not that I was super interested in it. I wasn't really interested in anything else to be bothered. And from there, it never stopped in terms of my own health and fitness journey, my desire to keep looking the way I wanted to look, but also to almost make peace with myself that this is where I am, and this is who I am, and that's okay. And that really helped with helping other people that wanted to get to the mountaintop but realized, they had no equipment and no training. So one foot in front of the other doesn't really get you to Everest if you don't know what you're doing. So I became that person eventually that was a guide more than a kind of a drill sergeant.
Sure. I remember when you first reached out to me, Lifting Legends was a have to for you. The just the phrase that comes to mind when you reached out initially about the certification was I have to do this. Was it a singular event, or was it more a series of events that got you in in the mind space or in the thought process of lifting legends, and please feel free to, talk a little bit about the history of it. But was it an immediate, yes, this is what I'm doing, or was it a series of interesting, oh, this is, this isn't happening, and so what was it? Was it the deluge, or was it the trickle?
No, it was the frog that got put into the water, and the heat is slowly turned up, and he doesn't even realize he's being boiled alive. And not in a negative way. That
A good
I
frog boil.
yeah, jacuzzi-esque. So I've had been working with this population, this neurodivergent, special needs, additional needs, differing needs, in Cork for the last 8, 9 years as part of my other gym, Lifting and Laughing, which was, again, it's a comedy club with a focus on fitness. So we were already in the small group personal training world. We were down one side of it that was a little bit different,
Mhm.
by definition. And I always knew that service was unique. Now it only accounts for 11% of the overall business, in terms of what's down in Blarney. So it's only a small part of what we do, but it was incredibly unique in terms of it being different and not being offered anywhere else.
Mhm.
There was no sales involved. We would have a roster of maybe 22 slots. If someone left, there was 20 more people looking to get in the door, and it was one in, one out. And it
Mhm.
was really hard to figure out what was the future for it, because no one else was doing anything like that. They still
Sure.
aren't.
Right.
And we, at one time, we referred to two other gyms, one that did nearly the same as what we did, and one that worked with kind of general pop teens and who'd be
Right.
willing to try. And
Sure.
both of those gyms then closed, over the years, and we had
Right.
no referral network. And we started getting referrals in from primary healthcare and from physiotherapies, from kind of the OT, physio, psychology, assessment of need
Mhm.
world that's out there, were coming to us.
Mhm.
And I thought, okay, there's a business in this. However, there was so much else going on in the gym. I could never see the forest for the trees
Sure.
until my wife, God bless her, and the rest of my family decided to move 4 hours up there. Or my family decided to move 4 hours up the road. My wife was from there originally. And
Mhm.
when all that happened, she said, is there any way we can go? Can we go? And like any good self-help book would tell you, getting out of your environment and looking at the world in a different way just happens. And I knew if I was to do something else, that was the only thing I wanted to do. Personally, it is my favorite thing to do in the large group, small group, general pop, athletes, and differing needs, kids,
Mhm.
working with them, helping their parents. It's pure magic. And also, I was looking around thinking, in a way, when I looked at the market up here, tried a few different business models on good old AI, and
Mhm.
there was nothing up here. And the demand, because we're a half an hour from Dublin, the capital, so
Yep.
there's millions of people in that
Mhm.
county, versus down in Cork, there's a couple of 100,000. So the market is 10x,
Mhm.
10x up here, and it's just as underserved. So, which by definition, it's way underserved. So I was almost looking around thinking, do I know something everyone else doesn't know? Like,
Yeah.
what's going on here?
Yeah.
And given the fact that you can do masters in strength and conditioning and sports science, loads of PT certs out there, there was nothing that was autism or neurodivergency or fitness or strength. And then
Yeah.
somehow I found yours, and I was like, well, thank God, I'm not alone. Great. And now let's go and do the course.
Yeah, and it so much echoes. It's my experience also early on in thinking, okay, well, there's this intersection of the behavior support and coaching and all of the other methodologies surrounding human performance from a cognitive and socio-emotional perspective. And then you have the fitness side of things, but relatively nil in terms of service delivery or even, the programming model, which is why I wound up developing the certification in the first place. What were some of your early, like, oh, this really works moments, or even anything up to, last week? I love the situations where something really clicks for the athlete and for the coach, where you said, okay, this thing works, or this happened sooner than I thought it would for this athlete.
Um, I suppose I'll answer that kind of, and I'll go either end of a decade, right?
Please. Yeah.
I'll go way back to the first two clients, members, athletes that I worked with. One of them was a teenage Down syndrome boy who was wild
Hmm.
and just loved so much energy. And I did a session with him wondering, not sure how this will go. This was a
Yeah.
parent asked me, could I help? And I basically said yes. I couldn't think of any other, I couldn't think of a no at the time. And I did the session with him and I enjoyed it. I was
Hmm.
like, oh, that was great fun. I'd like to do that again. The next client was an 8-year-old girl, quiet as a mouse, whose
Hmm.
mother, again, can you help? I think this dyspraxia was the issue, undiagnosed at the time. I did that session with her, which was the polar opposite as the session with the boy in terms of no chat, no banter, no crack. We had a bit of fun, Joe, with games and things like that. And at the end of it, I said, God, I really enjoyed that session as well. And
Yeah.
I felt like they both got something out of it. And I was like, interesting
Hmm.
that what I would believe prior to doing these sessions, when you get in a referral or you get in your all about me or your medical form and it has all these things and all these words and you build up a picture of like, ooh, that sounds tricky.
Yeah.
And then you do the session and you're like, well, that was great. That
Yeah.
was fun. And I was like, okay, there's something in me that's not in others because most of the other coaches I've ever hired or even worked with haven't always loved working with this
Sure.
population.
Yeah.
So something else is going on. And right back now to the last fortnight, we've had like we work with children from as young as they come in. We've had a 2.5-year-old in here,
Wow.
4 is the youngest member.
Yeah.
So in our 40 clients members that we have now, there are 2 subgroups in that, which I'm calling the extra help group,
Hmm.
where they physically, cognitively, and adaptively, to quote some famous programming methodology from
Don't know where that could.
not sure who came up with that, but Tony Robbins maybe, that they needed more than what was currently being given to, let's say, the other 90%.
Yeah.
And
They were higher support athletes.
completely. And I didn't know what to do until they got together. So that
Hmm.
I had met each one of them individually. And it was what I've kind of termed exploratory exercise, where
Right.
they walk around the gym and interact with things in their own way. And I try and collect the workout as we go.
Mhm.
It's a bit, it can be a bit chaotic, but it seems like it's the best that we can do, but it also gets them familiar with me, the gym,
Mhm.
and what's happening. And I would hope it is a foundation that we can bring in sets and reps and long-term
Yeah.
periodization in the line. But that when they got together, I had a group of 3 under sevens, and then I had a group of 3 from a kind of 7 to 9. They did
Mhm.
more. They
Right.
watched each other. They were aware of each other, and they did a little bit more. And that again would have been way out of my comfort zone, something I hadn't done before.
Mhm.
Yes, it worked, and that when I would have dealt with individuals who, let's say, the session was challenging for me, quite
Mhm.
tricky, there was no way I would have thought, well, let's get 3 more of them. And wouldn't that be great? I would have thought, no way, I can't even help one. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
3. Yet when they got together, something else happened.
Mhm.
And it was positive, so that and that opens up another avenue, another kind of part of the market that again is even more underserved. And because
Sure.
you have some of the higher performing, less support needing children, they kind of can go into other sports, and they probably play a little bit of something, or they do kind of higher assisted
Sure.
basketball maybe. But the kids that need the extra help, they're not doing anything
Right.
diddly. So we're really forging ahead with something that might work for them. So that has been a real click moment of what can be done with just an open mind and a kind of a positive first drive with them and with their parents. Of when they come in, it's not what can't they do, it's what
Mhm.
can they do. And every single one of them was able to do one or two things. If that's
Right.
in the entire session, they might have done 2 carries. I say,
Mhm.
oh my God, can you believe we got 2 carries done in only a half an hour? Isn't that amazing? And the parents are like, well, yeah, they've never ever done that before. And I'm like, well, they have today. And that 6 months ago, or maybe even 6 weeks ago, I would have been like, what? That's all they did? And I'm charging for that? Yes, it can't be at that. But now I'm like, no, actually, there's bigger picture here at play. There's a lot more on the line. And we all need to kind of just be a bit more realistic with our expectations and realize that we're doing good, and we can do more if we keep coming back.
Yeah. And expectation management for everybody is it's such a big component of it because as you mentioned also, when you're working with an adolescent or a teenage athlete who has never had any type of structured physical fitness program or really hasn't engaged in any type of vigorous physical activity before, what often happens is we look at it like, oh, we got one thing done or two things done, but you have to take into consideration also that they've had, like, let's say from toddlerhood through adolescence into those teenage years, they've had 10, 12, 13 years of not having any type of movement strategy or any type of, physical training. So it's going to take a while. And when we see those strength deficits, when we see the motor planning deficits, even when we see the hesitation with a lot of our athletes, we have to remind ourselves that they've had a very long time of not training and a very short time of actually training. So putting it into perspective also, and then when you get those wins of we got 2 round trips with the sandbag carry today, and they were able to carry, they went from carrying 5 kilos to 12 kilos today, just because I recognized, oh, now they're capable of doing this, and I was I was for all the right reasons underestimating what they could do, but they're demonstrating, okay, they can handle twice or more this amount of carry as well. So the expectation management is such a big deal for ourselves also. When you go into a session and you're like, okay, our goal today is to get 2 or 3 exercises done. Objectively, it seems, and this I think I want to get into, what separates different, different coaching makeups, if you will, like the anatomy of the coaching brain, why some coaches can really thrive with this population. Other coaches, as you mentioned, have much more difficulty. I have my guesses about it. I think a lot of it is ego with coaches. They want to show how much they can do with different exercises, and they're not necessarily interested in working with a population that isn't going to have that capability as readily or as quickly or ever. What do you think separates a coach like yourself or some of the other coaches that you have who are working with neurodivergent populations and those not from a judgment standpoint of bad good, but what is it that separates? And I'll bridge that a little bit by saying I don't think I think it's too easy to say, oh, I love working with this population, because I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who love working with with the neurodivergent population, but are not necessarily as effective at it just because they don't have the tools and strategies and training or whatever. But just in the mindset, what do you think separates, yourself, the coaches that you have, some of the other coaches you've met in the certification program, and the coaches who are like, no, I don't really, that this isn't my thing.
So yeah, like I would have hired and said goodbye to lots of coaches over the last 10 years,
Mm.
going on 11 years now for and over two sites, and that generally I've found looking as objectively as I can at the people in front of me, if they come with a desire for non-monetary remuneration
Mm.
from working with this population, and it kind of moves into the devotion end of the personal and the professional. You look at nurses,
Yeah.
teachers,
Mm.
doctors, sometimes firemen, police, that they're there for a higher power than the money. Maybe
Mm.
doctors notwithstanding, like the rest of them, they're not paid enough for what they do.
Right.
Why do they keep doing it?
Mm.
Because they are getting something else out of it. Like in the fitness industry, it's not where people go to become rich. That's for sure. So that these people, when they come to work here, or if we've specifically advertised for specialized PT is what the service is called in Blarney. If we advertise just for that role,
Mm.
generally people who want to work with that population and children. Oh, and there's money as well. Okay, that's a bonus on top of
Mm.
that. So that they have that need to make a difference and make an impact with this population and upskilling themselves. And the upskilling then rolls into, because I would always say, and why is that important to you? Well, my son or my nephew or my cousin or my brother has, and they have a personal connection to you. Now, that's not vital. That's not a
Sure.
requirement. We can't put that on
Yeah.
an Indeed ad, like you have to have a personal experience with this. But I found it helps because people are already interested in it and really want to know more. And they
Mm.
may have finished their studies in terms of their schooling and their collegiate life, but they want to know more about this stuff as well, because there is a massive, as you know, and hence you provide the service, a massive upskilling required to be brilliant. You can definitely get going with a cert or two, but if you
Sure.
want to really know what's going on and to stay on the finger of the pulse of this um part of the medical world, like it's frightening how quickly it's moving and how much it's developing and it's changing. So they need to have that devotion. One other aspect as well, it helps. Again, sometimes if they're parents, they just know a little bit more and kind of can not get cross, but can just kind of say, hey, and just work with those populations. Again, that's a positive and a negative sometimes, but
Mm.
I found that having some skin in the game and really believing in this service as its impact it can have on the community is most helpful. I call it the soft skills. If
Mm.
someone comes to me with high level soft skills, and that's their ability to interact and talk and get on with children, we can teach the rest, the hard skills, the squats and the lunges and the pulling and the pressing and the upper body and the lower body. We can teach that relatively easy, but I can't teach a person to want to be friendly with children,
Yeah.
to meet them where they're at. I could, but it might take me years, and I don't have that time anymore.
Right.
I might have had it decades ago, but not anymore. So yeah, that's where I would fall on that.
It's so interesting you bring that up because I think among, myself and other colleagues, and certainly you included in this, the conversation around, the hard, what we call hard and soft skills. And I don't think that's a misnomer at all. I think it's correct. I think that the soft skills are a little bit more, I think those are the skills that are more inherent or innate or, or genetic in a way. And it brings up such a fascinating question of, can you teach somebody to be patient? Can you teach somebody to be compassionate? And in that in that dichotomy, so to speak, so you have what's underlying there is understanding. Can you empathize with this athlete and understand that they don't understand things the way that you understand them, and they may not be interpreting, things the way that you're interpreting them, and they may not right now or may never care about doing a squat to strengthen their legs. They care about doing the squat so that they can get either a reinforcer, or the reinforcer is so that they don't have to do the squat anymore. Like, okay, this is your last set, which may be the case for a lot of people who go to the gym don't necessarily love the exercises themselves. They like the benefit. But coming back to that premise of when you have a coach or anybody else, those soft skills, to what point can they be learned? And I think about it as a 1 to 10 scale sometimes. Like if you have someone who is empathetic at a 4, can you get them to an 8? Or can you get them just about to a 6? And for you with your other coaches also, that must be something that you're looking for. I'm sure you're approached by some of your coaches who want to do this. And then I wonder if you ever have the inclination that someone might be a really good fit for working with this population, but they don't see it yet. I don't know. Tell me what your experience has been with that, if anything.
Yeah, yeah, that has happened, and you can't push that square peg into the round hole. And
Sure.
one other aspect I forgot to mention, and it's more probably due to myself, I would be known as, and I would enjoy it, known as a big kid myself. I look at Lego and say, how can we get more Lego in the gym? Just how can we find a way? I look at Marvel and DC and be like, yeah, it's a shame there isn't more Marvel around here. What can we do to get more balloons into the gym? And
Right.
I enjoy that. And if other people enjoy it, even better. And also, the kids, they don't have, as you alluded to there, they don't have those notions or those expectations sometimes, that they come as they are. What you get is what you see. And I'm like, oh, it's so much better dealing with,
Yeah.
rather than kind of pretending. And I have to pretend to be an adult with other adults. With kids, I can just be myself and just be banterful, and the crack is mighty. And that to me is energy giving
Yeah.
and stuff. And how, as a business model, that's terrible, because I cannot scale that. Like, I'm like, just put on your showman hat and you're the
Right.
center of the circus and you lead everyone.
Someone calling you, how many balloons do we need to have in order to fill the balloon quota? Like,
Not
okay,
enough.
we have 17 teal balloons, but we only have 7 gold balloons. It's just like, no, that's not enough gold balloons.
Look, Robin Williams called it a little spark of madness. Everyone has it. Don't lose it. And if I can transfer that feeling in me to the children, to just get them enjoying it. And as you mentioned, the expectation of the child, they may never want to be here to do the thing that you've kind of sold them to, that you will help them with. And
Right.
that's the same
Yeah.
with all the adults that have ever come to me. I'm under no illusions. They may never like it and never want to do it. However, within my power is the ability to give them an enjoyable half an hour or an
Sure.
hour. And
Yeah.
that can be led by any medium, as long as we collect a bit of fitness, Joe, to keep up appearances along the way.
Yeah.
But we can just have a well good half an hour where, with the children as well, that they're celebrated, their abilities are celebrated. And lots of them that come in, they will have gone to other services where a lot of it is negative. And unfortunately, in the public services here, it's kind of get you in, give you the minimum, and get you out, and
Right.
hopefully you don't come back. And that's just the way it is. And I know that I can, when people come in and I'm positive and I'm like, when can you come back? And let's get you back and let's do more. That's the opposite of what they're hearing from some of the other services they're in. And that's nice when when parents are told no, not told no. And when a parent comes in, is there any way you could help my child? And I just go, yeah. And then I figure it out afterwards. And
Right.
that's been very helpful as well in me understanding how this approach might work for the coaches with me.
Mhm.
Me saying to them, sure, yourself is not very good. I need to say, what is the vision here? What is the mission? Here are your pillars that will guide your decision-making process.
Mhm.
and just add energy and good festive cheer all year round.
Right. Well, I think that, and in the best way possible, you have taken the Willy Wonka model and applied it to fitness because you've created a world of this also. So it's not as though, I think it would be very different if you were in a more, for the sake of the conversation, more sterile gym environment where it was just, okay, all the walls are white or all the walls are gray and they're squat rack, squat rack, squat. And not that there's anything wrong with that necessarily, but you're working with younger populations also. So to come in and to have, the Marvel and to have Lego and to have the balloons, and not only is it uh enhancing the personality that you're putting out and who you are as a coach, but you also have this environment that's supporting it. So there are dual mechanisms at play. There's the personality and there's the coaching, and then there's also this very enriched, robust environment that you have as well. Because particularly with younger kids, the more sterile environment you have in general, and this I think pertains to neurotypical kids, but also the neurodivergent population as well. The more bland that the scene, the more they will try to enhance the scene, with energy. But if there's already energy corralled in that environment, I think oftentimes it can go either way, and I'd like to know your experiences with this, where it might be distracting, but it can also be enhancing because the energy level of the coaching and of the activity is matched by the surroundings as well.
Yeah, totally. Like I'm in a gym here right now at the moment. Funny
Yeah.
enough, I'm not in San Francisco at the Golden Gate Bridge
I
behind
was
me.
wondering about that, but I let it pass.
Um, the ability for me to totally create a unique experience by bringing in those accommodations for
Mhm.
the sensory seeking, sensory avoiding, neurodivergent populations is what's available to me. I
Mhm.
don't exactly know what this place will look like next week, no mind in 6 months, but what I have learned is to a degree less is more. We've definitely tried to declutter, like the gym down in Cork would be busy at the best of times. There might be a 2 feet of free wall with all the different posters I've had up.
Mhm.
Um, and we found with especially I'd say the higher help group that when they come in, the sensory room that we have here, door closed, light off. Well, there isn't the light, but
Yeah.
the lava lamp turned off and locked, and the key put up high. Same with the playroom, same with the parents' room, because give them options and they will explore.
Right.
So we box the place in a little bit, and that's
Yeah.
quite well. If they kind of run one way, I'm there with a log, right, for a
Mhm.
carry. And they turn around and go, no, run the other way. I'm there
Yeah.
with the sled going, will we go for a push? And they go, no. And then they run another way, and I'm there with a med ball. How we were going to
Yep.
go for a pass. I'm just ready
Yeah.
for our coach or their parents. If they generally in the higher health group, the parents, we would request they be involved as well, because
Yeah.
not that we're trying to crowd the child, but that we basically create the gym and they come to us. Now we might be getting in their way a little bit, but they eventually accept what's happening. And it's so interesting where you have a child that is dysregulated coming in and
Mhm.
they may not want to do what you want them to do. But if you can just get that log into their hands and you see their face go, oh,
Oh. Yeah.
walk. And I'm like,
Yeah.
knew it. Told
Yeah.
you.
Well, this again, not to be redundant, but it comes back to expectation management and theory of mind and empathy that athlete walking into that situation doesn't necessarily have the same idea or ideas about what's going on, for the like, what do I do here? Like the whole premise of a gym, the whole premise of physical fitness, the whole premise of why would I want to do something that's going to challenge me and, increase my heart rate and my breathing and temporarily feel uncomfortable. That uh, discriminating between pain and discomfort. Like, when is something painful? When is something uncomfortable? How can we pull those apart and say, well, right now, as far as all of the understanding that I have about what's going on, you are experiencing discomfort. But it might register as something's wrong. Everything's right. You're just training hard, that kind of thing. But coming back to these, soft skills that we were talking about, a coach needs to have a very keen awareness and understanding of that athlete's experience in order to support those situations as well. Because the first time they're carrying, a 20-kilo sandbag, it might be fun, but it may not. The first time they push a sled, it might be fun, it might not. They're doing it so that they don't have to do it anymore. So the implementation of the positive coaching support and framing it for them as well is a big deal.
Yeah, going off that with the new coaches here, I kind of give them a challenge. I say go through the whole session without saying no. And outside of, safety concerns where you might have to say, just try. You go, yes, and yes, but is
Right.
you're asking to do the exercise and they do something so like everything go, oh, that's brilliant. Why don't we just try it this way? Which was
Yeah.
the actual thing you asked.
Oh,
Um,
sure.
and generally that is a place for a better outcome, but the coaches coming through might be used to the no's, don't do that, that's wrong, that's incorrect. And they're right. Like they are right, but we're trying to work with the people in front of us and figure out what's going on. And you definitely can't put a price on just that time element of the coach may need to be with the child for 4 sessions or 8 sessions, maybe 12, before we can kind of start getting somewhere. And
Oh,
that
totally. Yeah.
tough sell for the parents sometimes where, Eoin's selling the magic here, like, 3 sessions in, still no magic. What's going on?
Right.
I have to be careful with that too. And these first 40 odd children and teens who have taken a punt on me and my team who didn't know me from Adam in these parts, I will never forget them because we've been trying to stay like one step ahead of them as they're coming up with us as we're figuring it out as we go. And I know that in another month or two's time, because we have the kids come in at the same time on the same day each week and the
Yeah.
same coach is with them, so that coach is getting to know them every week. And like there's not too many textbooks or methodologies that would benefit just time under
Yeah.
the coach, time under tension, and well, time under fun, we'll say, or time under banter. But yeah, that's just another useful component that you can't have straight away. You have to
Yeah.
just stick with it.
Yeah. Well, it's the experience and the mentorship also. Someone can have an encyclopedic knowledge of biomechanics and, human physiology and, even behavior analysis for that. It's not going to do any good when you have an athlete who's perseverating on, tying and untying their shoes for the first 6 minutes of a session also. So the experience and the guidance and understanding not just the concepts and the strategies, but how to apply them and not just apply them in a rote or rigid way. Like right now, I'm going to tell you, great job doing the squats. Like that's not to be as effective as immersing yourself in the process of that athlete is really trying right now. So you have to use your tone, you have to use inflection, you have to be right there with them and not just a casual observer of that also. I'm curious for with those, 40 pioneering families who decided that they wanted to start working with you, what were their initial wants? Like what were their goals? How did they articulate to you and your team, we want to be here because of this? Was it as general or generic as we just want to be fit? Were there more specific goals that they had? How 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 were those conversations and how did those conversations continue?
So, like a lot of what you mentioned, we would have I suppose, a portion who would be, let's say, from a clinical, maybe a medical end, where they've been recommended more strength training. They need to strengthen their hamstrings. They need to work on their lower body. Cerebral palsy clients in particular need to work on their not as strong side,
Mhm.
and they need strength training and good accommodations to help with that. Others, it could be as basic as move more, get them off the couch,
Yeah.
looking at the screens.
Mhm.
Um, and then there was a nice portion of just inclusion. This is somewhere for them that we've never found somewhere that was for them, and that's powerful stuff. And because you would say, well, where have you been that you didn't work out, and that they didn't feel included in Ireland, you know, in their country. So that I want to be that place for them, and they have found that since. And we've definitely pushed to work with the other uh, like the other providers in their primary healthcare team. Like, so if I see there's a physio mentioned, I'm like, I'm on to that physio to learn more about this child and what the physio is seeing, what the physio recommends. The physio is high level stuff, so we want to be there to help enhance their I suppose the learnings the physio have and the outcomes the physio has deemed important for them. And also they want to, again, back to the inclusion thing, quite a few of them are aware of the gym and muscles and
Mhm.
weights, and they want to be like their brother or their
Mhm.
dad, or even Instagram and YouTube, like that they get it, that
Yeah.
where I was at 12 or 13, some of them are
Sure.
coming in 5 and 6. Like, you know, I don't like the way I look, want a six pack, and I'm like,
Right.
what are you?
That's yeah, that's concerning. It's
A
great
little.
that you found your guidance, but at the same time,
Well, at least, yeah, I if I met someone like me when I was 12, that would have been ideal. So at least they're
oh
getting
yeah.
a PT early
Oh,
days.
I agree. If at 12 years old I had someone who said, "Hey, you want big arms? Let's go." Like if I at 12 years old could have, pro wrestling arms, all right, let's do this.
Yeah, the sell would have been easy. So yeah, that would have been it, and definitely the sensory seeking uh, folk who would, because the neurodivergency, it leads to the word autism. And at the moment there are nice organizations in this part doing a lot of good work in that, so people are aware of it and want to be involved in something like this as well, which is great. And look, the parents, as you know, the parents are warriors.
Yeah.
All parents are warriors, but the parents of children with differing needs are, they're a different rank, to be fair. So they just hear something for my child that's good. Where do I sign?
Yeah, that's the basic. But and then I would imagine I could be wrong, but very similar to myself. You're like, oh, but wait, but let me show you also what not is it just exercise and not is just fitness, but like an
Yeah.
obsessive focus on quality programming.
Or we've, like, the 40 we have is 40 memberships I've offered. There were a few more still outstanding that I'm just trying to figure out what, because we have up groups of up to four. I'm like,
Yeah.
where will I put this person? Because they're not really fitting into any group. And I've been making a few extra groups, but I'm eventually going to run out of slots as well. So
Yeah.
there are some still outstanding members to be signed up. Not that they've said no, it's, I'm just holding off for the minute.
And that's great because that leads me to my last question for you, at least for today. But so we are a few days out. What's today? It's 22nd or 23rd. I don't, it's 22nd. So we're about a week out from New Year's. What does 2026 look like for Lifting Legends?
2026 for Lifting Legends is full roster
Mhm.
of membership, and that's to really sweat this fabulous asset that I do have. And that includes 3 coaches. I will initially have them as part-time, and the view then is to make one of them full-time if the full-timer reveals themselves, or hire out my role, so that I am, again, similar to the gym in Cork, where I am no longer involved in the day-to-day operations, but it's running away without me, thank God. would be to do something similar here in order for me once again to step out and look in and say, is there something in the Wonka, the Willy Wonka of gyms, or is it the Marvel gym, or is the marketing right? Am I delivering what I'm selling?
Mhm.
Also, is there a component of interaction with government?
Mhm.
We all give out and we all fight and go and try and go against, but look, they're there to stay. They control the tide. We're only fighting against it. Is there a surfboard to be found that we can try and work with them? And then schools come into that as well. So there are so many avenues that we can go. Educational components as well, as I'm working with you and as I'm getting coaches in, like I'm trying to disseminate your stuff to them and
Mhm.
speed that up just as quick as possible. Every part of this want to be speeded up. So that requires lots of nuts and bolts. Again, the marketing and the social media component of this. It's a tougher one because you're dealing with kids, but it's so powerful. Like if you have a child doing exercises and you have some nice music in the background, and it melts hearts, and that's what we're trying to do, trying to understand this. So for me, it would be, let's say, fully operational. This site, we're only 8 weeks in, so it's super early days. And me thinking bigger. I was at a talk a couple of weeks ago, a business breakfast, and someone was saying to us, he said, "What's your market?" And I was like, "I suppose it's this county or this part of Ireland." And he said, "Too small." I said, "Is it all of Ireland?" He said, "Too small." He said, "Why are you not thinking about the world?" He said, "Canada, they're crying out for help." He said, "Japan, it's an aging population. They're crying out for health and fitness." He said, "Have you thought about the Middle East? Like, they have money, they want to do everything." And I was like, okay, yeah. In order to conquer Ireland, I have to think worldwide. And that for me, there's a process. So I need to do what I know is best and then give myself a good kick up the arse as well. And we get things done. So there's a lot of work there, but I couldn't think of doing anything else.
And first, I'm going to finish this muffin.
That too.
The breakfast networking world takeover meeting.
Yeah, something like that, you know. But it's nice. It is nice to meet people like yourself as well, who are just, you're where I want to be, and like need to see more people like that, and following the footsteps of success, like, because you're leaving clues. This is, this interaction, and I just need to be awake and caffeinated enough to recognize them.
Thank you. And it's always I'm appreciative of you and the rare coaches like yourself also, because when someone like you finds Autism Fitness, I know that we're doing a good job, and I know that I'm in the right place, because that's what I want to attract. I want to attract high caliber coaches who have a real dedication to this population and know how to do it right. And that leads me to know that at least in a few ways I'm doing things correctly. Um, Coach Murphy, thank you so much for this. I know this is going to be valuable for our pros and our future pros also. So I really want to thank you for your time.
Shut in, sorry, and do level two.
And of course the
Course,
expert course.
but
I was
when
waiting
it
for. I didn't. I'm not going to impose.
starts me out with the time, the
Your
time difference.
Your Instagram is a great follow too. So if people want to get in contact with you either for coaching or to follow along, where's the best places to find you? Including your Instagram is fantastic. I love your account.
Thank you. It's a work in progress. So the Instagram is Lifting Legends Greystones, and that's where we are. And liftinglegends.ie is the website. So between the two, you'll get all the magic and the banter.
And having grown up in the 80s with He-Man and having Castle Grayskull in the background all the time, every time I see Greystone, it reminds me of the fun components of my childhood.
Well, you're showing your age there, my friend, because I
So my
was around
props, that's fine. I don't care.
the
I'm
80s.
45, dude.
I barely know what you just said. I've heard of He-Man. So
I'm 45. I'm gonna go squat in the garage in an hour.
Mind your shoulder.
Yeah, my shoulder, fine. Yeah, I'm still working on my shoulder, and I just got a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. So,
Whoa, congratulations.
all right, man. Well, thank you again so much. I appreciate this. And for those of you who are not already certified, autismfitness.com. Join our movement for movement anywhere in the world. Clearly, we're international in bringing the best possible fitness programs to the autism and neurodivergent population. Thank you again.